Hello ReZero fans, and welcome back to another ReZero video on the channel. You know what time it is, it's discussion time. We're about to go through the episode's context, we have a little chat afterwards. This episode was quite interesting, to be honest. Not much happened per se, but we got quite a bit of new information, especially regarding the Pleiades library, some characters within the show, and of course it seems to be setting up something quite big that we will get to see in the next episode, and I am very excited to see. So without further ado, ladies and gents, let's see what happened in this week's episode. The episode begins with the group now within the Pleiades library, a room full of endless aisles of books that seem to have no end. What I find quite funny is Subaru said so many things already in front of Shola, and the things that I'm talking about is she's so certain that Subaru is Flugel, her master, but Subaru has said so many things already that has contradicted this fact. And she just seems to be so gaslit into thinking that Subaru is Flugel. No matter what Subaru says, Shola's kind of just gaslit herself into thinking that, yeah, no, he's Flugel 100%. There's nothing that can change my mind. And I think 400 years of waiting and protecting this library as ordered would do that to somebody, because Subaru enters this room and he basically calls Shola's master a jerk for setting up this whole thing, because pretty much in order to get to the Pleiades library, a person must have information about the constellations of stars, which pretty much only something people from Japan, Subaru's world, would know of, and that's how they pass the trial, because Subaru just has advanced knowledge on the constellations as how they pass to begin with. And obviously because Flugel was also from Japan, Subaru's world, that's how the question in order to pass the test kind of got set up anyway. But basically Subaru calls Flugel a jerk for basically creating the question with the sole intent of people from this world, the ReZero world, not even being able to pass unless I had someone from Subaru's world with them with knowledge of the stars. He calls him a jerk in front of Shola, but Shola doesn't even like click. All she really does was, why would you call yourself a jerk, master? And I'm like, it doesn't matter what Subaru says. Shola's just actually gaslit herself into thinking that Subaru is Flugel, no matter what he says. So I guess lying and pretending to be Flugel doesn't really matter. Shola herself has never actually been in the library herself, so the group must find a way to continue on themselves. When opening one of the books within the library, the words transcribed in the books begin to scatter around randomly. Beatrice says it must be some kind of cognitive obstruction, and the titles of the books seem to be of people's names. Subaru finds one book in particular that he finds familiar. When opening the book, the letters glow as it transports Subaru's consciousness. A memory begins playing of a familiar character that we saw in Season 2, which is the Witch of Pride, Typhon. The book begins showing Typhon's past as we see her father was an executioner, a person who judged people on their crimes, a concept that was very confusing to Typhon. Typhon breaks an ornament where she seems to have a scared expression on her face. Her father walks in and instead of scolding her, comforts her for telling the truth and apologising instead of lying. Within this instance, it seems this is where Typhon gained her powers for the first time. At the next execution trial, Typhon begins asking people if they committed a sin, where the people begin cracking into pieces. We're very familiar with this power already. Obviously in Season 2, when Subaru is speaking to Typhon herself within the garden, he cracks into multiple pieces, but he doesn't feel pain. And basically in this backstory, everyone around Typhon just cracks into pieces, including her own father, and I believe that's like the moment when she's walking away in that scene, she becomes the Witch of Pride. And honestly, the power is kind of scary. So after seeing a bit of Typhon's backstory here, Subaru's consciousness returns. Beatrice tries reading the same book, but the results are the same with the letters scattered around. The group come to the conclusion the books hold memories of people who have died, and in order to view their memories, the person opening the book must have met them personally. And because obviously Subaru met Typhon already, that's how he was able to view her Book of the Dead. But obviously, when opening a book with someone you haven't met before, the words are kind of scattered. So clearly, the requirement to view someone's memories through their eyes is you must have met them before they had died. And that's how you kind of view their Book of the Dead. An interesting question gets asked in this episode, and that is the archives of the library continuing even now? So if people who are dying at this very instant, are their books just being created? Is the library just an endless supply of people's Books of the Dead? like people who have been dying from years before to people who have been dying right now? Is its collection just ever growing? And I believe that answer will kind of get answered as season 4 continues. In a very interesting way, actually, and I can't wait to see it get kind of adapted. But yeah, safe to say the collection is kind of ever growing. Even people dying recently, even now, their books are being added to the library. And I guess it just goes to show how even more mysterious this library is, like the kind of power it has to just create these books. What the hell was Flugel on? Subaru asks Meili how long she's been working as an assassin, where she responds that she's lived the assassin's life for 5 or 6 years, where she didn't actually feel like she was working at all, just following her mother's orders who took her in. We get to know more about Meili's past, where she was an orphan whose parents left her in a forest full of Marbeasts, and the reason that they didn't chew her into billions of pieces was because she had her divine power even as a child. So the Marbeasts were already befriended, like she already befriended the Marbeast in the forest, hence why they didn't even eat or kill her at all, and that's how she kind of grew up safe with these Marbeasts. She had the divine power to control Marbeast even back as a baby, so that's kind of how she survived getting tossed to the side by her parents. It's a very kind of a sad thing. I'm like, in a forest full of Marbeasts, really? Like, if you didn't want your kid, why not put them in someone's doorstep? A forest full of Marbeasts? What the hell? I mean, it kind of makes sense in a kind of twisted way. I mean, her parents were apparently aware of her divine power to control Marbeasts of all things, and they must have thought Meili was this being sent from hell or something. So they thought, what do you do to get rid of a being like this? You send it to the slaughter, and that's probably why they left her in a forest full of Marbeasts, which I'm not really sure they fully understood the concept of her power, because why would you put somebody who controls Marbeasts in a forest full of Marbeasts? It makes no sense. I don't know if they actually had knowledge of how far her powers actually went, or if they didn't. But it's safe to say her powers saved her, because these Marbeasts were not attacking her, and that's how she grew up to being able to control different kinds of Marbeasts, which you saw in Season 2. That big, bloody, fluffy Marbeast wolf thing, nah! Subaru asks her if her real mum and dad's books of the dead were in the library, would she want to read them? Where she responds she has no interest at all in people she doesn't know. Anastasia figures out that Shorla was given 4 orders she must entertain. Rule 1 is any challenges of the Great Pleiades library cannot leave once the trials have started. Rule 2, challenges violating the rules in any way is forbidden. Rule 3, disrespecting the archive is forbidden. And finally, Rule 4, actions to damage the tower in any way is forbidden. If any of the rules are broken, Shorla is meant to turn very hostile towards the group and basically off them, basically voiding Subaru's promise when he first met her. Subaru made her promise that while they are in the Pleiades tower, she isn't allowed to kill or attack Subaru or any of the group. But if any of these rules that Shorla was basically made to follow are broken, the promise is voided, and Shorla basically just kills them on the spot. Even if Flugel himself was to break the rules, she's to kill them. It's kind of interesting because this place must hold some kind... You know what I mean? This place is a place full of power and information. It's a very important place, especially to Flugel, I guess, because he even set these instructions onto Shorla to even count himself into them. Even if Flugel himself was to disregard these rules he made and made Shorla follow, he's also to be punished the exact same way. Emilia has a hunch on where the staircase to the next floor is, and its position is right where they started at the beginning. A hunch she made because the person who created it wasn't a very honest person to begin with. Subaru and the group begin climbing the stairs towards the next trial. The room they find themselves in is like the room with the monoliths. Bright white everywhere except for a sword mounted in front of them. Subaru picks up the sword as a man in red hair. Subaru picks up the sword as a man with red hair appears before them. The mysterious red-haired man says fools who have attained the heavenly sword must now earn his pardon. The way Shorla reacts to the man is very familiar to the name we heard in the previous episode. Not really, kind of a spoiler, but not really. If you want to go back to the episode and see her reaction to the name she heard during that episode, feel free, because this guy is that man. but I'm not going to spoil it because this man does not give his name in the episode. He goes by kind of a code name, which I will say once we get near the end of the episode. But yeah, Shula's reaction kind of gives away this guy's actual name. But this guy seems to give off quite the hostile attitude, suffering from a headache and a hangover, shouting every chance he gets. Julius picks up the heavenly sword and decides to challenge the red-haired man himself. It seems in order to pass this trial, the red-haired man must be defeated. Julius declares his name before lifting up the sword, as the mysterious man says he has no name to give, but to call him the Stick Swinger, as the episode ends there. Holy crap. At the end of this episode, you can tell they're setting up a fight. And honestly, Julius versus this man, I cannot wait to see it adapted. Which is going to be in 2 days, because I was very late making this video. I was in Italy, so I wasn't able to have my setup and record. I watched the episode while I was there, but I was itching to really get back and make an episode. So this is why this is so late. But from when this video gets uploaded, 2 more days and we are seeing this animated, so I can't wait. But pretty much, yeah, no, this episode was very, very informative. We got to learn about the books of the dead, you know what I mean, the books that are being held in this library, this great library. And it's safe to say, if you ever want information, you can just open the person. Well, you must have, there is conditions, you have to have met this person, but in order to get basically a backstory or information that this person holds, you have to basically open their Book of the Dead and witness it through their eyes. But in order to see a person's life through their eyes, you must have met them before they have died. Hence the Book of the Dead. It's the books of the dead, quite literally. But in order to view them, you must have met them when they were alive. So there are conditions to viewing people's books. But it's kind of nice to get, you know what I mean, information on this. It's a very, kind of a disturbing library to have. It's like, it is an archive of people who have once lived. I mean, not really necessarily. It's more history, if anything. But it's kind of disturbing knowing that its archives have just that, people's books of the dead, and how it's still endlessly carrying on this kind of tradition of holding information. It's very mysterious, I must say. We got to learn more about Typhon through her Book of the Dead, how she became the Witch of Pride in a sense. We got to learn more about her little life before she became the Witch of Pride. We got to see the Stick Swindler guy animated. And we also got to learn more of, basically more about Shula, I guess, Flugel, the rules that he's set upon her. She's a very mysterious character herself. 400 years of waiting, protecting this tower of sorts. I want to know, like, more why she's so obsessed with Subaru being her master, because like I said at the start of the episode, Subaru is clearly not Flugel. Bro has said so many things, and she's kind of just disregarded them. But like I said, I guess 400 years of being trapped defending a tower would do that to a person, so I'm not going to go much more into that. But yes, a very informative episode indeed. Not more action, but I am glad to know more knowledge about the world, as I think you guys are. So yeah, pretty interesting episode to say the least. And I believe next episode is going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one, and I will be there for it. And hopefully a video like this will be released more earlier than this video comes out. So yeah, I'm going to get a crack on it, 100%. But thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please leave a like. Tell me down in the comment section down below what your favourite part of the episode is, and what the favourite episode you have is of the season so far. And yeah, I will see you all in this week's episode of ReZero, because this is getting uploaded on a Monday of a new week. This is last week's episode, but I will see you all in this week's episode. Have a good rest of your day and night, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.